I know that you feel nervous when you try to speak English or when the words just don't come out the way you want them to. I used to feel like that too. There were times when I wanted to say something in English, but the words wouldn't flow and I felt stuck. But you know what? That's completely normal. Learning a new language takes time, and it's okay to make mistakes. The important thing is to keep trying, keep practicing, and never give up. Today, I'm going to share a story with you that's not just fun, but also easy to understand. It's designed to help you improve your English step by step. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Speak English Fluently, so you can continue to learn and grow with us. Every video is a new opportunity to get better, and I'm here to help you on this journey. Now, let's get started. Once upon a day, I went to a small town. This town was quiet, peaceful, and full of friendly people. In this town lived a little girl named Anna. Anna was 7 years old, and she was full of energy and curiosity. She lived in a small house with her loving family, her mother, her father, and her little brother, Tom. Tom was only 3 years old, but he loved playing with Anna. Anna woke up every morning with the sun shining through her window. She would jump out of bed, ready for a new day. Her mother would make a delicious breakfast, usually with fresh bread, milk, and sometimes a sweet fruit. After breakfast, Anna would pack her school bag and head out the door, ready to learn and play with her friends. Anna's school was not far from her house. It was a small school with kind teachers and many children. Anna's best friend was Lucy. Lucy was a little older than Anna, and they did everything together. They sat next to each other in class, played games during breaks, and shared their lunch. One day, Anna's teacher announced that there would be a special field trip. The class was going to visit a large forest near their town. Everyone was excited. The teacher explained that they would see different types of plants, trees, and animals. Anna couldn't wait to explore the forest with Lucy. She loved nature, especially trees, flowers, and animals. On the day of the trip, Anna's mother packed her a big lunch with sandwiches, fruits, and juice. She also packed an extra snack for Lucy. The students boarded the school bus, and soon they were on their way. The road to the forest was long, but the view outside the window was beautiful. The trees were tall and green, and the air was fresh and cool. When they arrived at the forest, the teacher reminded everyone to stay close and listen carefully. They started walking on a narrow path that led deep into the forest. Anna and Lucy held hands as they walked, looking at the different plants and listening to the birds singing in the trees. It was like stepping into a magical world. As they walked further into the forest, the teacher pointed out different types of trees and explained their names. There were oak trees, pine trees, and many others. Anna listened carefully, trying to remember all the names. She was fascinated by how tall and strong the trees were. Some of them were so old that they had been there for hundreds of years. Suddenly, the teacher stopped and pointed to a small stream flowing nearby. The water was clear and cool, and there were small fish swimming in it. The students gathered around to take a closer look. Anna leaned over to see the fish, and she noticed something shiny at the bottom of the stream. It was a small golden key. Anna was curious. She wanted to pick up the key, but the teacher called them to continue walking. Anna and Lucy kept talking about the key as they walked. They wondered where it came from and what it could open. The thought of the key stayed in Anna's mind throughout the trip. After a while, the group reached a large clearing in the forest. The sun was shining brightly, and there were colorful flowers growing all around. The teacher decided it was time to take a break and have lunch. Anna and Lucy sat down on a big rock and opened their lunch bags. They shared their food and talked about the amazing things they had seen so far. But Anna couldn't stop thinking about the key. She decided that after lunch, she would go back to the stream and try to find it again. After lunch, the teacher allowed the students to explore the clearing for a little while before they continued their walk. Anna took Lucy's hand and whispered, "Let's go back to the stream. I want to find that key." Lucy was curious too, so she agreed. The two girls quietly slipped away from the group and made their way back to the stream. When they reached the stream, Anna knelt down and looked into the water. The key was still there, shining under the sunlight. Anna carefully reached into the water and picked up the key. It was small, with a delicate design, and it felt cool in her hand. "It's beautiful," Lucy said, looking at the key in Anna's hand. "But what do you think it opens?" Anna didn't know, but she was excited to find out. They decided to keep the key a secret for now. Anna put the key in her pocket, and they hurried back to join the group before anyone noticed they were gone. The rest of the walk was filled with more discoveries, beautiful flowers, tall trees, and even a family of deer quietly grazing in the distance. By the time they returned to the school, Anna's mind was racing with possibilities. What if the key opened a hidden door in the forest? Or maybe it was for a treasure chest buried somewhere. Anna and Lucy agreed to meet at Anna's house the next day to explore the forest again and see if they could find out more about the mysterious key. The next morning, Anna woke up early. She couldn't stop thinking about the adventure that awaited her. After breakfast, she packed a small bag with snacks, water, and a flashlight. She also made sure to bring the key. Lucy arrived shortly after, and the two girls set off towards the forest. The forest was quiet and peaceful, just as it had been the day before. Anna and Lucy walked along the path they had taken with their class, but this time they were alone. They talked about what they might find and where they should start looking. "Let's go back to the stream," Lucy suggested. "Maybe there's something we missed." They arrived at the stream and looked around. The water was still clear, and the fish were swimming peacefully. Anna looked at the key in her hand, and then at the trees around them. She noticed that one of the trees had a strange marking on it, like a symbol carved into the bark. "Look at this," Anna said, pointing to the tree. "Maybe it's a clue." Lucy examined the symbol and nodded. "It looks like an arrow," she said. "Maybe it's pointing to something." The two girls decided to follow the direction the arrow was pointing. They walked deeper into the forest, following a narrow path that seemed to wind its way through the trees. The further they walked, the more curious they became. What if the key really did open something important? After walking for a while, Anna and Lucy came across an old wooden door hidden in the side of a hill. The door was covered in moss and looked like it hadn't been opened in years. "Do you think the key opens this door?" Lucy asked, her voice full of excitement. Anna felt her heart race. She pulled the key out of her pocket and looked at it carefully. It seemed to fit the door perfectly. With trembling hands, she inserted the key into the lock. It turned smoothly, and with a soft click, the door unlocked. The girls exchanged a glance, both nervous and excited. "Are you ready?" Anna asked. Lucy nodded, and together they pushed the door open. The door creaked as it swung open, revealing a dark tunnel leading into the hill. Anna turned on her flashlight, and the two girls stepped inside. The tunnel was narrow, and the air was cool and damp. As they walked, their footsteps echoed off the walls. The tunnel seemed to go on forever, twisting and turning as it went deeper into the hill. Finally, they reached the end of the tunnel and found themselves in a large underground chamber. The chamber was filled with old, dusty furniture, shelves lined with books, and strange objects that looked like they came from a different time. In the center of the room was a large wooden chest. The chest was old, with intricate carvings on the lid. Anna and Lucy approached it slowly. "Do you think there's treasure inside?" Lucy whispered. Anna's hands were shaking as she reached out to open the chest. The lid was heavy, but with Lucy's help, she managed to lift it. Inside the chest were piles of gold coins, sparkling jewels, and old, worn maps. The girls gasped in amazement. They had found a real treasure. "This is incredible," Anna exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "We found a hidden treasure in the forest." Lucy couldn't believe it either. They had gone from finding a simple key in a stream to discovering an entire hidden chamber filled with treasure. As they looked through the chest, they found more than just gold and jewels. There were old letters, diaries, and even a small box filled with strange glowing stones. The letters were written in a language they didn't understand, but the maps seemed to show different places, some far away, some close by. Anna picked up one of the maps. It looked like it showed the forest they were in, but there were markings on it that she didn't recognize. "Maybe these maps lead to more treasure," Lucy suggested, her eyes shining with excitement. Anna nodded. "Or maybe they show us something even more important," she said thoughtfully. The girls decided to take some of the maps and letters with them so they could study them later. They carefully closed the chest and began to explore the rest of the chamber. There were many other interesting things in the chamber. They found an old telescope, a globe with strange markings, and even a sword hanging on the wall. Everything looked like it had been there for a very long time. As they explored, Anna noticed a small door at the back of the chamber. It was half hidden behind a bookshelf. "Look at this," Anna said, pointing to the door. "Do you think it leads to another room?" Lucy was just as curious as Anna, so they carefully moved the bookshelf aside and opened the door. The door led to a smaller room, and inside they found something truly amazing. In the center of the room was a pedestal, and on top of the pedestal was a small glowing orb. The orb was emitting a soft blue light, and it seemed to be pulsing gently, like it was alive. "What is that?" Lucy whispered, her voice filled with awe. Anna didn't know, but she felt drawn to the orb. She reached out to touch it, but just before her fingers made contact, the orb began to glow brighter. The room was suddenly filled with light, and the girls had to shield their eyes. When the light dimmed, they found themselves back in the forest, standing in the clearing where they had started. Anna and Lucy looked around in shock. They were back in the clearing, but something felt different. The sun was lower in the sky, and the forest was filled with the sounds of birds returning to their nests. The orb was no longer in Anna's hand. It had disappeared. "What just happened?" Lucy asked, her voice trembling. Anna shook her head. "I don't know, but it feels like we've been here before." Maybe the orb brought us back somehow." The girls were puzzled, but they knew they had discovered something magical. They looked at each other, realizing they had to find out more about the mysterious chamber and the orb. "We need to go back to the chamber," Anna said. "There must be more clues there." They retraced their steps, following the path back to the hidden door in the hill. The door was still unlocked, and they quickly made their way down the tunnel to the underground chamber. When they arrived, they noticed that the room looked different. The furniture was cleaner, the shelves were organized, and the dust was gone. It was as if the room had been magically restored. As they explored the chamber again, Anna noticed that the small door at the back was now slightly open. The pedestal was still there, but the orb was missing. "Someone has been here," Anna whispered. Lucy nodded in agreement. But who? And why did they take the orb? The girls were filled with questions, but they had no answers. They decided to explore the smaller room more carefully. As they entered, they noticed something they hadn't seen before: a small old book lying on the floor near the pedestal. Anna picked up the book and opened it. The pages were filled with strange symbols and diagrams, but there were also some words in English. "This looks like some kind of journal," Anna said as she skimmed through the pages. "It talks about the orb and the power it holds." Lucy peered over Anna's shoulder, reading along. The journal explained that the orb was an ancient artifact, created long ago by a powerful wizard. It had the ability to transport people through time and space, but only if they knew how to use it properly. The wizard had hidden the orb in the forest to protect it from those who would misuse its power. The orb was designed to protect the forest and its secrets, Anna read aloud. But it can only be used by someone with a pure heart and good intentions. The girls realized that they had accidentally activated the orb's power when they found it earlier, but now someone else had taken it. "We need to find the orb before whoever took it uses it for the wrong reasons," Lucy said, her voice filled with determination. Anna agreed. They carefully placed the journal in Anna's bag, knowing it might hold more clues. As they left the smaller room, they noticed that the door to the chamber was now slightly ajar. They hadn't left it open before. "Someone is definitely watching us," Anna whispered. The girls moved cautiously, making their way back through the tunnel and out into the forest. The sun was setting and the shadows were growing longer. They knew they had to act fast. "Where do you think they went?" Lucy asked as they stepped into the clearing. Anna thought for a moment. "If I were trying to hide something, I would go deeper into the forest, away from the paths people usually take." Lucy nodded, and they started walking towards the denser part of the forest, where the trees grew closer together and the light barely reached the ground. As they walked, the forest became quieter, and the air grew cooler. They could feel the weight of the adventure ahead of them. Suddenly, they heard a faint rustling sound behind them. They turned around, but there was nothing there, just the trees swaying in the wind. The rustling sound grew louder, and Anna and Lucy felt a chill run down their spines. "We're not alone," Anna whispered, her voice trembling. Lucy gripped Anna's arm tightly, and they both turned to face the direction of the sound. The forest seemed to hold its breath as the rustling grew closer. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from behind a tree. It was a tall, hooded figure, cloaked in dark robes that blended with the shadows. The figure's face was hidden, but they could feel its gaze upon them. "You have something that belongs to me," the figure said in a low, rasping voice. Anna and Lucy froze. "The orb," the figure continued. "You found it, and now it is mine." Anna took a step back, her heart racing. "We don't have it," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Someone took it before we could." The figure seemed to study them for a moment, then laughed softly. "Ah, so the orb has found another. No matter, it will return to me soon enough." Before they could respond, the figure raised a hand, and a gust of wind blew through the clearing. Anna and Lucy shielded their eyes as the wind grew stronger, swirling leaves and dust around them. When the wind died down, the figure was gone, leaving only silence behind. "What was that?" Lucy gasped, her voice shaking. "I don't know," Anna replied, still shaken by the encounter. "But we have to find the orb before that person does." The girls knew that time was running out. They continued their journey deeper into the forest, their senses heightened and their nerves on edge. The forest seemed darker now, the trees closing in around them as they pushed forward. As they walked, they noticed something strange. The trees around them were changing, becoming older and more twisted. The air was thick with mist, and the ground beneath their feet felt soft and uneven. It was as if they had entered a different part of the forest, one that was ancient and untouched by time. "This place feels different," Lucy said, her voice barely above a whisper. Anna nodded, feeling the same unease. They had the sense that they were being watched, but they couldn't see anyone. The forest was silent except for the sound of their footsteps on the soft earth. After what felt like hours of walking, they came across a large stone structure hidden among the trees. The structure was covered in moss and vines, and it looked like it had been there for centuries. "What is this place?" Lucy asked, her eyes wide with wonder. Anna didn't know, but she felt drawn to it. The structure seemed important, like it held the key to the mystery they were trying to solve. They approached the structure cautiously, their eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. The entrance was a large stone archway, partially covered by thick vines. Anna reached out to touch the stone, feeling the cool, rough surface beneath her fingers. "It's ancient," she said softly, as if speaking any louder would disturb the silence around them. Lucy found a small, carved symbol on the archway that looked familiar. "This is the same symbol that was on the tree where we found the key," she said, pointing to the carving. Anna's heart skipped a beat. "Maybe this is where the orb is supposed to be," she said. "Or maybe it's where it was created." They pushed aside the vines and stepped through the archway. Inside, the structure was dark and damp, with narrow corridors leading off in different directions. The walls were covered in strange symbols and carvings, some of which glowed faintly in the dim light. "This place is like a maze," Lucy whispered as they walked deeper into the structure. The corridor they chose led them to a large circular chamber. In the center of the chamber was a stone pedestal, similar to the one they had seen in the underground chamber, but this one was larger and more ornate. "This must be where the orb belongs," Anna said, feeling a sense of awe and fear. As they approached the pedestal, they noticed something strange. The pedestal was empty, but there was a faint, glowing outline where the orb should have been. "It's like a ghost image of the orb," Lucy said, reaching out to touch the glowing outline. Her hand passed through the light as if it were made of mist. The orb is connected to this place, Anna realized. But why was it hidden in the forest, and why is someone trying to take it? Before they could ponder further, they heard a soft whispering sound. It seemed to come from the walls themselves, a chorus of voices speaking in a language they didn't understand. The voices grew louder, filling the chamber with a haunting melody that sent shivers down their spines. "We need to leave," Anna said urgently, grabbing Lucy's arm. But just as they turned to go, the ground beneath them began to shake. The entire chamber seemed to tremble as dust and debris fell from the ceiling. The pedestal began to glow brighter, and the faint outline of the orb pulsed with energy. "Something's happening!" Lucy cried out as they tried to keep their balance. A blinding flash of light erupted from the pedestal, and the girls were thrown to the ground. When the light faded, they found themselves lying on the floor, the chamber silent and still once more. Anna and Lucy slowly got to their feet, their hearts pounding in their chests. The pedestal was no longer glowing, and the chamber had returned to its previous state. "What just happened?" Lucy asked, her voice trembling with fear and confusion. Anna shook her head, trying to make sense of the strange events. "I don't know, but I think we've triggered something," she replied, her mind racing with possibilities. As they stood there, trying to figure out what to do next, they heard footsteps echoing through the corridor they had come from. The sound was getting closer, and it was accompanied by the same low, rasping voice they had heard in the forest. "The orb must be returned to its rightful place," the voice hissed, filled with malice and determination. The girls knew they had to act quickly. They couldn't let the mysterious figure find them here. "We need to hide," Anna whispered urgently. They scanned the chamber for a place to conceal themselves and spotted a narrow gap in the wall, hidden behind a large stone column. They squeezed into the gap, pressing themselves against the cold stone as the footsteps drew nearer. The figure entered the chamber, its dark robes billowing like smoke. Anna held her breath, hoping the figure wouldn't notice them. The figure moved to the pedestal, studying the glowing outline of the orb. The figure reached out and touched the outline, and for a moment, the chamber was filled with a deep, resonant hum. The girls could feel the vibrations through the stone they were pressed against. The figure seemed to be searching for something, muttering under its breath in a language they couldn't understand. Anna's heart raced as she tried to think of a way to escape without being seen. Just then, the figure stepped back from the pedestal, as if frustrated by its inability to find the orb. It raised its hand, and the chamber grew darker, the shadows deepening around them. "Come to me," the figure commanded, its voice filled with anger and desperation. But nothing happened. The figure seemed to hesitate, then turned and left the chamber, its footsteps fading into the distance. Anna and Lucy waited in silence until they were sure the figure was gone. Slowly, they emerged from their hiding place, their bodies trembling from the tension and fear. "That was too close," Lucy whispered, her voice barely audible. "What do we do now?" Anna looked at the pedestal, the glowing outline still faintly visible. "We need to find the orb before that person does," she said resolutely. "But we have to be careful. Whoever that was, they're dangerous." Lucy nodded in agreement, and the girls cautiously left the chamber. As they made their way back through the maze of corridors, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every shadow seemed to move, and every sound echoed eerily through the stone walls. But despite their fear, they knew they couldn't give up. The orb was too important, and they had to find it before it fell into the wrong hands. They eventually found their way out of the structure and back into the forest. The night had fallen, and the forest was now bathed in moonlight. The air was cool and crisp, and the sounds of nocturnal creatures filled the silence. Anna and Lucy took a moment to catch their breath and gather their thoughts. "We need a plan," Anna said, her mind racing. "The figure is looking for the orb, but they don't know where it is. That gives us an advantage." Lucy thought for a moment. "The journal we found mentioned that the orb can only be used by someone with a pure heart and good intentions," she said. "Maybe that's why the figure couldn't make it appear." Anna nodded. "That means we have a chance to stop them, but we need to figure out how to use the orb ourselves." They decided to head back to Anna's house to study the journal more carefully. Maybe there was something they missed, a clue that would help them unlock the orb's power. Anna and Lucy hurried back through the forest, the journal clutched tightly in Anna's hand. The moonlight guided their way, casting long shadows on the ground. As they reached the edge of the forest, they saw the familiar lights of Anna's house in the distance. Relief washed over them, but they knew their adventure was far from over. When they arrived at Anna's house, they went straight to her room. Anna laid the journal on her desk, and the girls began to carefully examine each page, looking for any clues they might have missed. The journal was filled with notes about the orb, its powers, and the ancient rituals associated with it. "There's something here," Lucy said, pointing to a passage in the journal. "It says that the orb's true power can only be unlocked when it is placed in its rightful location during the full moon." Anna looked out the window. The moon was full tonight, casting its silver light across the land. "That's tonight," she said. "We have to find where the orb belongs." The journal described a hidden location deep within the forest, a place where the orb's power could be fully realized. Anna and Lucy knew they had to return to the forest immediately. Time was running out, and the figure would be searching for them. With determination in their hearts, Anna and Lucy packed some supplies and headed back into the forest. The night was quiet, the only sound being the rustling of leaves under their feet. They followed the directions in the journal, carefully making their way through the trees and avoiding the paths they had taken earlier. After what felt like hours of walking, they reached a clearing surrounded by ancient, towering trees. In the center of the clearing was a stone altar, much like the pedestal they had seen in the underground chamber. The altar was old, covered in moss and vines, but it had an aura of power around it. "This must be the place," Anna whispered, her voice filled with awe. The girls approached the altar cautiously, their eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. The full moon shone directly above, bathing the clearing in its light. "We need to place the orb here," Lucy said, pointing to a small, circular indentation in the altar. It was the perfect size for the orb. "But we don't have the orb," Anna replied, her voice tinged with worry. "It was taken from us, remember?" Lucy nodded, but then her eyes widened as she remembered something. "Wait, the journal said that the orb would return to its rightful place when the time was right." As if on cue, the clearing was suddenly filled with a soft blue light. Anna and Lucy turned to see the orb materializing above the altar, its glow growing stronger with each passing second. The girls watched in amazement as the orb gently floated down and settled into the indentation on the altar. The moment the orb touched the stone, the entire clearing lit up with a brilliant blue light. The trees around them seemed to hum with energy, and the ground beneath their feet vibrated with power. Anna and Lucy felt a surge of warmth and light fill their hearts, as if the forest itself was welcoming them. The orb began to pulse with a rhythmic glow, and the symbols carved into the altar started to glow as well. The girls knew that they had done the right thing by bringing the orb back to its rightful place. As they stood there, watching the orb's light fill the clearing, they felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. But their moment of triumph was short-lived. From the shadows, the hooded figure emerged, its dark robes blending with the night. "You've done well," the figure said, its voice filled with anger. "But now the orb belongs to me." Anna and Lucy stepped back, their hearts pounding with fear. "You can't have the orb," Anna said firmly, standing her ground. "It doesn't belong to you." The figure laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "You're just children," it sneered. "You have no idea what power you're dealing with." The figure raised its hand, and the orb's light flickered as if it was being pulled towards the figure's outstretched hand. But before the figure could take control, the orb's glow intensified, and a powerful shockwave of light erupted from the altar, knocking the figure back. The figure screamed in pain and frustration as the light continued to grow, surrounding the orb with a protective barrier. "No!" the figure cried out, its voice filled with desperation. "This power is mine!" But no matter how hard the figure tried, it couldn't break through the barrier. Anna and Lucy watched as the orb's light grew brighter and brighter until it was almost blinding. The figure stumbled back, shielding its eyes from the intense light. The orb pulsed one last time, sending out a wave of energy that pushed the figure into the shadows, where it vanished without a trace. The clearing fell silent, the only sound being the gentle hum of the orb as it returned to its calm, steady glow. Anna and Lucy stood there in stunned silence, hardly believing what they had just witnessed. The figure was gone, and the orb had protected itself from falling into the wrong hands. "We did it," Lucy whispered, her voice filled with awe. "We saved the orb." Anna nodded, still trying to process everything that had happened. "I think the orb chose to protect itself," she said softly. "It knew we were trying to help." The girls watched as the orb's light gradually dimmed, returning to its original soft, blue glow. It seemed at peace, as if it had finally found its true home. The clearing, once filled with energy and light, was now calm and serene. The moonlight bathed the area in a gentle glow, and the night seemed to sigh in relief. Anna and Lucy knew that their adventure was coming to an end, but they also knew that they had done something important, something that would be remembered for a long time. As they turned to leave the clearing, they felt a sense of fulfillment and peace. The forest seemed to embrace them, its ancient trees whispering words of gratitude. They knew they would never forget this night, or the incredible journey they had taken to protect the orb. When they returned to Anna's house, the first light of dawn was breaking over the horizon. They were tired, but their hearts were light. They quietly entered the house, careful not to wake Anna's parents. In the safety of Anna's room, the girls finally allowed themselves to relax. They sat on the bed, their minds still buzzing with everything they had experienced. "Do you think the orb will be safe now?" Lucy asked softly. Anna nodded, a calm smile on her face. Yes, I believe it's exactly where it's meant to be. The forest will protect it, just like it protected us. The weight of their journey lifted as they realized they had done something truly special, something that would stay with them forever. As the first light of dawn peeked through the window, casting a warm glow over the room, the girls finally let their eyes close. The adventure had been long and full of challenges, but it had also brought them closer and taught them the true meaning of courage and friendship. And so, as they drifted off to sleep, the forest outside remained still and peaceful, guarding its ancient secrets. The orb, now resting in its rightful place, shone with a gentle light, a beacon of hope and the triumph of good over darkness. The story of Anna and Lucy's great adventure would be told for generations, a tale of bravery, magic, and the power of a pure heart. And with that, dear listener, our story comes to an end. But remember, every ending is just a new beginning, waiting for you to explore. The end.